I'm in a soundproofed room, like a little booth thing. It's like, can you see? I think it's for like meetings or something. God, this flapjack is so nice. Hi everyone. I wanted to make this video more specifically because I feel like I've just unleashed something which is quite random for me, considering a lot of people just know me as being a fashion designer and having a brand. And essentially what I've released is a body of work called NEKO. Now, NEKO is an album, a music album. I mean, do you have any other albums? Like a photo album or something? It's just something I've had bubbling away, like on the side for like over a year now. And I just feel like it's appropriate for me to make a video to kind of like talk about it because it is kind of really random. I just think that it'd be nice to give some context and to give a little bit of a background as to why we did it and the process and everything like that. So NEKO was birthed in line with my Autumn 22 collection. So it was sort of a project that I wanted to make in replacement of a campaign. So my Autumn 22 collection was called Art of Noise, and it explored music in 3 parts. So it explored the physical, the kind of physical embodiment of music, like kind of instruments and sculptures, and looking at like Picasso's guitars and things like that. And then I looked at the cultural, so I specifically looked at the no wave movement of New York in the late 70s, early 80s. And then I also kind of looked at like Arthur Russell and sort of like key sort of bands and musicians that kind of looked really good, so kind of getting garment references for that. Then I looked at the emotional, so sort of like what music made you feel and how that could be sort of like translated into patterns and colors and all of that. That was the collection, and in line with that I wanted to make an album. I mean, like, it just made so much sense. Like, you know, instead of doing a campaign, I thought, why not better use that money, make an album? Now, I've always been really interested in, you know, making music because I used to DJ when I had my club night. I used to always get like so heavily involved with the show soundtrack. Whenever we do a runway show or like a film, I'd always be like so involved in making the soundtrack, you know, working with the partner that we would have and just literally like at their side. So I just wanted to evolve that process basically and sort of like introduce something a bit more formalized as a body of work, and also kind of like reach out to some friends of mine who I've always wanted to work with a little bit more in a more focused way. So I reached out to Robert Fox and Tom Furse, who are both multidisciplinary artists. Robert being a filmmaker, sort of sonic artist, does a lot of work with sort of spoken word. And we've worked together quite a lot in the past doing projects for Loverboy, most notably my gallery project with the Now Gallery in South London called The Come Up, where we made this amazing film that was sort of a piss take of a gallery and all of the characters in it. But then there was a lot of kind of like narrative and wordplay, and Tom Furse, who comes from my all-time favourite band, The Horrors. I mean, I'm still pinching myself that I'm working with him. He is a solo artist in his own right. He has his own releases and also now works quite a lot with AI art and makes like these amazing AI films. So I've worked with him on a couple of Fred Perry projects. He scored some films that we did for our collab with them, and also has done like a runway soundtrack for me. So it was really cool to have him on board. It was like kind of interesting because we met in this big room in Somerset House where my studio is. So we had booked out this kind of like really corporate room, and we were all sort of like sat together and basically sort of like chatting shit, really flooded with ideas. But what really shone through was the fact that we all kind of really liked each other's references. And so we kind of started getting this sort of weird recipe together. And I was really keen for there to be an arc. So I kind of got this big whiteboard out and started drawing on it. And I drew this cat, and I was basically like, why don't we have this sort of Cheshire Cat narrative that sort of like helps tell the story of music and our love for it and our journey in making this music. And so it kind of started from there. And we met up sort of like 6 times. We worked in this really cool studio called Haha Sounds, which is in Limehouse, which Robert actually lived right next door to, which was really fun. and easy for us to kind of get together and sort of like work. And so Tom basically kind of like started to curate some sounds that we really liked. There was a lot of references to Arthur Russell, obviously, some of his kind of early disco work. And then Robert just started making these sort of like scripts, like sort of with the view of like a Cheshire Cat character. And I guess sort of like, you know, building out a story essentially. And I was sort of creative directing it, so curating it, bringing in other collaborators like my old intern Taliable. So Taliable is this amazing sort of like rapper, screamo artist. She's also multidisciplinary in her own right. She makes her own videos, and she was my intern before, and I was always so fascinated with her soundscapes and her spoken word work that she did, and I just really wanted to have her voice on the album. Then when we were kind of going forward and developing the tracks a little bit more, we realized that we needed a female vocalist. We needed someone with a real strong sort of like passionate vocal to sort of assist in some of the areas of the tracks that needed some lift. So we worked with Fee McCluskey, who is this incredible vocalist that is very much within the queer scene in London. So a lot of the kind of queer kids know her, have partied with her. She's like a proper like just gem on the scene, and she just added this real great soul and chutzpah to it, and she's also like hilarious. So it was just really, really great to have her on board. So finally we worked with Raven Bush, who provided strings for us, and it was just such a great element to the album. So there was some areas of the album which really also needed that kind of cinematic touch, and he brought in those. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it was a really interesting way for us to work. I mean, it was definitely challenging, and it was lots of things that we had to learn. You know, I had to push my team into sort of like creating a platform for the music to exist on. Went from on top of our e-commerce. It was also on social media, so we had to learn a lot about all of this new social media attached to music, and then also just like getting it out there and promoting it, and getting the listeners and everything else. Like I think we're sat now on like 2,000 monthly listeners, which is amazing, you know, considering we've never really done music before. And yeah, we finally launched it on Halloween. I really wanted to like have like a proper audiovisual experience for the full thing, considering it was sort of intended to be this sort of story, this kind of arc, rather than just about kind of like tracks and sort of hits. It was more about like the full album experience. So I really wanted to visualize it as much as possible, and we were really lucky that we were doing a project with the ICA at the time. I did my first ever show there in 2015. It was my first ever Fashionista show, and it just felt so fitting to do my first ever like album launch there as well. So they said yes, and then I kind of galvanized my team to figure out a way to visualize the full album experience, considering we didn't visualize it all in the music videos. We've only done 3. And yeah, basically we did the event. It was a really, really great turnout, considering it was a wet Monday post Halloween weekend. And we created a full visualization of the album and showcased it to the world. And yeah, I'm so pleased with how it all went. So I want to give you guys the opportunity to experience that event that we did on Monday. The idea is that if you subscribe to our website, you'll be able to be informed as to when we're going to do the showcase. So I think we're going to aim to try and do it this week, potentially tomorrow. I need to confirm that, but the idea is that we're going to showcase it, and you can sit back and listen to it and just sort of feel and see the album as it's meant to be portrayed to you. I'm so proud of this project. I literally can't believe that it's something that I've kind of managed to get done with the group of people that I've done it with. I feel like, you know, when you are a creative person, you always want to find an opportunity to express yourself in any kind of given media. For me, I never have really seen myself as just a fashion designer. I don't think I ever really was a fashion designer. I was just interested in working with creative people and sort of doing lots of different projects. I mean, music has always been such a huge part of my life. With this album, it's just the start, I think, of a whole new other body of work that we'll be doing with my brand. So I'll leave it with you. I've babbled on a hell of a lot in this video, but it means a lot to me to talk about it with you as authentically as I have, and I really hope you enjoy it. Okay, thank you. Bye.